All right, and we are recording and Audacity in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Lynn, and I'm here with my co-host, Marissa Roy. And in today's episode, we are going to do a quick one, but we're going to chat a little bit about coaching and what all it entails.
Yeah, so just a little bit of context for you all. We really just want this episode to be for somebody who maybe has been considering coaching for a long time, or maybe has a coach and is struggling. And it's really for, honestly, like I feel like the specific person is like someone who continues to repeat to themselves, like, I gotta get to this point and then I'll hire a coach. Like feeling like there's some standard that you have to meet in order to actually hire and recruit help, which I do understand why that would be a thought process, because like if you're going to put money into something, you should have a certain level of confidence in yourself that you could do the thing, right? To make it worthwhile. But I think that there's some holes that we can poke in that honestly is could make that seem a little bit more like backwards thinking rather than forwards.
Yeah, because I definitely understand the logic there, right? You're like, if I'm going to be investing into myself and paying for a coach, I want to make it worthwhile. I want to get my money's worth. Like, I want to make sure I'm in a good spot to really take advantage of the coaching situation. But there is a little bit of backwards thinking to that, because that means that you are going to be completely on your own, trying to overcome all these challenges to get to a good spot to then work with a coach. And then it's like, well, if you're already in that spot, then do you need to work with a coach at that point? And then at what point are you really going to feel ready? Like, is like, oh, I'm going to be ready once this happens. I'm going to be ready once that happens.
And that's just, I mean, ultimately, that's just a fallacy that will continue to perpetuate itself for eternity if you let it. I've actually talked to a couple of people recently where I really was just like digging with this one woman who really, really wanted to make a change for herself, but she kept saying, I have to, pay this off first. I have to make sure that we settle into our new house first. I need to make sure that we do all this first. And then I will invest in this. And the reality is, when you get to that point, you're already going to have 6 different things next up on the docket before you invest in yourself by then. Because if the frame of mind that I believe she was operating out of was that she is secondary as a priority to all these other projects and things that are for her family, which obviously makes sense, but it's a situation that you can really never get out of. And you can tell yourself over and over again that I will do it and I will get out of it and I will prioritize myself. But until you take the uncomfortable action of doing it before you're ready, you usually will just stay perpetuating that for months and years on end. And then that's when I get into conversations, because I've had these too, with women for 10 years, 15 years, where I ask, okay, so if this has been going on for this long, like, why are we here right now? And they're like, well, I've been telling myself for 15 years that I was going to do something about it, and I haven't, because I let life get in the way. I let other things be more important. And I'm looking back at all that time and realizing how much farther ahead I could have been if I had just started then. And
Yeah.
so I think a big thing that you like want to make sure that you're checking yourself on is like, where are you on your own priorities list? Like, and honestly, like, and not where do you feel that you are and what do you want, but what do your actions show? Right. And part of that, we can track actions with finances. I think that's like one of the reasons why people say, like, oh, like where your money goes, your priorities are. And that could be a very rude way of saying it, but ultimately, like, what else do we have to measure? Like, we can measure what money we spend and where we spend our time. Like, those are the things that we can like retroactively actually look at and measure. And so if you look at those two things, they're going to tell you a lot about where your priorities truly are.
Yeah, because like you said, it's really easy to be, oh, well, let me just get this paid off, or let me just do this first, or and then it's kind of like you're just looking for this perfect time, and there never is with life. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be events. There's always like you're never just going to have, hey, I just have, unless it's 2020, right? Where you just have all this time off, where you have no social obligations, but that doesn't happen very often. So you're going to have to kind of like overcome things. And I think that maybe also one of the things that holds people back from coaching is maybe a misconception of what coaching is or what it's like having a coach, because I think it's very different if you are someone who wants to do like a contest prep. Because at that point, it's like, yeah, you probably need to have a basic understanding of macros. You have to have a pretty good foundation of muscle. Like you need to be in a pretty good routine with the gym. And at that point, I'd say, yeah, you have a good point of wanting to get into a good spot before you hire a contest prep coach. But when it comes to just life, not just lifestyle coaching, but when it comes to like lifestyle coaching, it's not a here are your macros or here's your nutrition, here's your workout plan, go do it. There's a lot more that goes into it. And so if you're waiting to get to this point, whether it's, I mean, maybe not financially, I feel like that's another objection, that's another conversation. But if you're trying to get to a point where you have a routine and you have good habits and you have all these things, well, then again, you're going through all these things on your own. And then when you get to coaching, you don't really need that. And maybe it would have taken you years and tons of trial and error and tons of time and all the stuff that I don't want to say wasted, but if you were to work with a coach, you might have gotten there a lot quicker and not had as many setbacks. And you're learning from someone who's done the thing and has helped many other people. So you're going to get to your goals way faster and have a lot less like challenges to overcome with working with a coach.
Yeah. Well, here's, I think, a good frame shift that explains that, because you're like someone I could imagine someone listening to this and being like, yeah, but I know what I need to do. I'm just not doing it.
Mhm.
And honestly, I think that if you feel like that's you, you know what you need to do, but you're just not doing it, you don't actually know what you need to do. Because if you did, you would be doing it because it would be simple and clear enough in your mind. Conceptually, yes, you know what you need to do is eat these types of foods, exercise this regularly, take care of certain habits and behaviors. However, there is a lack of clarity when it comes to just like, I just need to do more of that. It's like typical like January 1st goal setting. We always say, I want to be healthier, lose weight, and read more. It's like, well, exactly how? Like, when are you going to set aside the time to read? How many pages per day to get to the goal of books that you have per week, per month, per year, right? Or with your health and fitness goals, how exactly are you going to implement those behaviors that eventually lead to the result? And so conceptually, yes, you know what you need to do. You're not stupid, but the clarity in exactly how the barriers to entry for you actually doing those things is created in your life, or those barriers are lowered in your life specifically, are the barriers that you have not crossed because you need troubleshooting capabilities that maybe you've just never had before to overcome those barriers that have been getting in the way all this time. So, like, I feel like I don't have time to do X, Y, and Z. Just went over this with someone recently. Well, you don't have time to do those things. Like, you just told me your entire schedule. You absolutely do not have the time. So it's not about making the time. You can't just will your way into another 30 minutes of your day. You have to work with the reality that you're in, and no one's ever taught you how to do that. And so that is where I think a lot of times, if you think you know what you need to do, you're actually closing off your mind to being a student and learning and getting the help that you need.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And I think the other thing too, it's like when you're working with a coach, well, I want to say if you're working with a good coach, they are hopefully taking a personalized approach to figuring out what is going to work for you. And a lot of times news articles, if you Google how to lose weight, or if you read something, if you read a book, it's very general and it's not taking into consideration, like you were just saying with that specific example, this client's specific schedule or this client's particular obstacle or whatever that may be, because everyone's got something unique going on. And so really being able to troubleshoot when that happens and figuring out like, okay, yeah, this is actually going to work for me, or coming up with multiple solutions, or just, I think it's, we talk with our clients about this all the time when it comes to something like, let's say, reverse dieting. Maybe you know that you need to eat more food. Maybe you've seen, okay, I am a chronic dieter. I can't sustain on 1,200 calories a day. I know what I need to do. But for a lot of women, increasing their food intake can be very scary and very daunting. And it feels like I'm going against everything that I've been taught is to eat less, move more. So you know what you need to do, but it's hard. And a lot of our clients talk about they second guess themselves all the time. They feel guilty for increasing their food. They feel like, oh my God, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. I feel like I'm doing something bad. But when they have a coach and their coach is like, yeah, let's just increase your food 20 grams. Like, let's make sure we're eating this and we're doing that. And it's like, cool. And you just move on with your day. And it's like having someone there that kind of almost sometimes gives you permission for, yeah, you might already know what to do, but having that person that you're not constantly second guessing yourself um, can make a really, really big difference. And I think I've talked about one of our clients before where she felt like she had zero time for anything, for herself, for workouts, for nutrition, because she was constantly thinking about all this stuff that she felt like, again, she needed to do, or she was trying to figure out. She didn't know what to do. She's trying to put all this, trying to do this, trying to do that, and her mental capacity was just like on the brink of like a breakdown. She started working with us. We were helping her figure out what she needed to do, and she started doing it. And then it's okay, yeah, I'm seeing results, and like, oh, okay, I just go to the gym. And she worked night shifts, so again, we had to figure out what was going to work for her and her routine and everything like that. We helped her kind of figure out food, and she was like, oh my God, I have so much time. She started writing a book. She's like, I have all this time on my hand because she's like, I'm not constantly having to think about this stuff anymore. So it's like opened up my eyes and my schedule to like everything that I can do now. And I just went off on a big tangent, but I think it's just having that accountability and having that person where you're not just constantly second guessing yourself can just alleviate a lot of that pressure that we put on ourselves when it comes to something like health and fitness and our goals.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's you got to take the thought out of it, get permission from someone else to do the thing that you were too scared to do or that you sabotage yourself when you're trying to do it in the first place. And then also the person that is coaching you should also be skilled in pulling the answers out of you, because the thing about coaching is that we think that it's a plan. It's not a plan. If it was about the plan, then Chat GPT would put all of us out of business, but we're clearly growing and thriving great businesses. So why is that? It's because the answers that you need are already inside of you. It's like, this is my schedule, this is my life, this is my body, this is what I'm feeling, seeing, thinking. And you need to know how to navigate those thoughts, behaviors, routines that you're already in, but you're the only one that knows those things. So unless somebody actually asks you, pulls that out of you in a skilled way, you're just going to be stuck in the same patterns that you have because you don't know how to like work your way out of it essentially. So it's like taking thought out of it, permission. And I think the last piece is really just like being able to help you like unlock that the answers that are within yourself already.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the other thing too that keeps people from working with a coach is again this idea that like, okay, I've got to be primed, I've got to be in this really good spot because I don't want to let my coach down. I don't want to check in and feel like I'm not doing what I need to do. Um, and I don't want to let someone down. And
Yeah.
again, I understand that. I've talked about this before. I had an experience like this with a past coach, and I felt the exact same way, and I stopped checking in. Difference was that coach didn't necessarily really care or follow up or just, hey, how you doing? It was just nothing. So I didn't feel like that coach really cared about me. And we know that that makes a really, really big difference. But oftentimes when you check in, again, if you check in every single week and you're doing everything at 100%, there's not really a whole lot that your coach can do other than keep it up, doing great,
Good
you know,
job. Yeah.
good job. Yeah. And then at that point, you're just kind of hiring a cheerleader and you're not really getting a whole lot out of the coaching situation. Again, if you're doing like a contest prep or something, that's completely different. That's how your check-ins kind of should be. Um, but if you are struggling, and that could be either in the beginning It could be in the middle of your journey, it could be at the very end of your journey. If you're struggling with something, whether it's like mental, you're having self-sabotaging, thoughts or actions, if you're just have something going on in your life and you're having to scale back what you were or previously doing, whatever it may be, whatever you feel like you might be failing with, failing at, I say in that in like quotations, or having difficulty with, that is when you should lean into your coach and lean into the process even more, because that's really where the magic can happen, is
Yeah.
feeling out, okay, how do I overcome these barriers so in the future I know how to deal with these? Because I think that sometimes what happens is clients will shut down. And again, I'm raising my hand. I have been there. I know what it feels like. And we don't ask for help, or we don't utilize the help, and we kind of feel like this is just something I need to work on mentally or internally or whatever, that my coach can't help me with, or whatever it may be. And so that's really when you can get a lot out of your coaching experience.
Yeah. Well, the coaching is in showing up ugly and showing up imperfectly. And like Christina said, if you show up perfect every week, honestly, I would have questions for you. I'd be like, are you like, is this even actually happening in real life? Or like, you know, are you okay mentally? Like, are you avoiding something by like being perfect on this plan? But yeah, being perfect is like very, very uncommon. You should show up very ugly on your check-ins. You should show up with everything that you're struggling with, because that's how you actually get help, is working through those. So I think that was beautifully said.
Yeah, and I know that we've talked about this on previous episodes. We have a, how to be a good client. I have no idea what number episode
It's
that
like
is.
freaking 13.
Yeah, it's probably pretty early. But one of the
Should
things that
probably
we talk
redo
about,
it.
yeah, yeah, but one of the things that we talk about is like the clients that are kind of like the harder ones, and I'm sure you kind of feel like this too. The ones that are a little bit more difficult to work with are the ones that are hard to communicate with. Like, we don't hear from them very often. We don't really know what's going on. Maybe they're short in their responses, or they're not really giving us a whole lot of information. And it's like, there's not really a whole lot that we can do. And so the clients that are checking in, that are saying, hey, how do I do this? What do I do this? I don't know how to do, like, if you're kind of like communicating, you're asking questions, and you're showing up, like it's showing that you're coached, not that, oh my God, this person doesn't know anything. It's like, wow, they want to learn. Um, that they're really involved in this process. And I feel like that can go a long way. It's like, that's, I mean, use your coach. Use your
Yeah.
coach to get that help and find those answers, and really kind of feel like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, if you're paying for a service, like, get your money's worth. Like, ask the questions. And again, if you're struggling, like, that's okay. But like, just to continuously like keep showing up, and keep trying to work with your coach to find a solution that's going to work. Um, and that, I'm not trying to dog on anyone that is busy and, can't communicate by any means. And hopefully your coach is trying to do a good job of asking good questions and things like that. But, it's like, really, really be an active participant in your journey. I think that that's really important, to be able to like really communicate with your coach. And, of course, it's on them too, to be good communicators back. But yeah, to really lean into that.
That's where a whole could be. Okay, so like play off of this, right? So that specifically could perpetuate someone's narrative of, well, I need to be in a good place where I'm ready to do coaching, where I can communicate enough and I can do all these things, right? So like, where's the line, right? Because it's like, and I think that's tough, because it's like, you know, I want to say that ultimately, like, at any point in your life, no matter how busy you are, you absolutely can show up. And I think at that point, it's more about the understanding and the intention, right? So it's like, you might not have a lot of time, but like, what can we do with, like, because it doesn't take long to send a text. It doesn't take long to respond. And so I think it's like being mentally checked in to like, this is my journey and I'm investing in it. But that doesn't, mentally checking in doesn't mean taking time, because filling out a form, like if we are mentally checked in, should still only take like 10 minutes. Everybody has 10 minutes. And if you can't do the form, let's say something got in the way, you can definitely send a text or like a voice memo or something. And like that does not take time, it takes intention. And then I think again with what we've kind of said around time and not having it, how much time are you spending second guessing yourself in your own head about the future and all the things that you have to do? And what if your coach had a system that could absolutely obliterate your time management issues in a second, right? Like we actually have and I can put this in the show notes. Like I don't take it for free. It's a freaking TED Talk. It's online and it's called like How to Triage Your Crazy Busy Life or something like that. And one of our coaches found it and just started sending it to all her clients, and like they all started showing up on office hours. And I was like, "Hey, why did office hours just blow up in attendance recently?" She was like, "Well, they all just told me they have so much of their time back because I gave them this system that helps them like color code what's important, what's not, like a prioritization technique essentially. And that people just don't have that. So it's like that just solved like it gave like people hours of their day back. And so they were like, I'm going to come to office hours now and be more involved in the coaching program. So it's like, but if they didn't have the coach in the first place, they wouldn't have gotten the system. Right. So I'm going to give it to you for free. But it's like things like that where you have to jump in and take the action first, put yourself in a position where you're able to accept help, and then things get better as a result. If you wait, usually things stay the same or they get worse. There's a rare situation where they get better without a lot of action or time or energy or research and development. But most people not doing anything about your goals will keep you stuck.
Yeah. And there's a really big difference between action and or motion, right? Motion and
Yeah.
action. And so the idea that sometimes like, oh, I'm going to plan this and I'm going to research this and I'm going to do that. And it feels like we're moving forward, but we're really not doing anything. And so sometimes I feel like we can do that when it comes to coaching, like, oh, I'm going to research all these coaches or I'm going to research which gym I'm going to do. But if you don't actually start doing it, then you're not going to get anywhere. But one of the things I was thinking about is we have a client.
Ooh,
Oh,
it's like
what?
shopping around.
Yeah.
Like if you're shopping around and you're just
Hmm.
shopping around for fucking 6 months and you don't commit to anyone or anything, like at this point, I don't care what you commit to. I don't care if you commit to me, to Christina, or some shitty program. Like I'd rather you commit to something and take action versus just shop around for the rest of your life.
Or like just talking about it. Oh yeah, I'm looking into a coach or yeah, it's like, yeah, you're not getting, I mean, perfect example. I'm looking at the dirt in my backyard. We've been trying to look at landscaping for like literally since before Colton was born, and I still have dirt in my backyard because I haven't made a decision. I've just been shopping around, getting quotes, and I haven't actually moved forward with anyone yet. Um, but I was thinking about a client that worked with us back in the day and was successful, but not as successful as they could have been, and didn't get the most out of the coaching relationship. And it's, there were a lot of different factors that went into this. But at the end of the day, the conversation that we've had now, because she has come back and joined the program, was she was like, I just wasn't ready yet. I thought I was, but I wasn't. And I just wasn't coachable. She was just very, 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 very stuck in her ways and had this idea and had a lot of things that she needed to overcome. And, it's hard because she took action, but she didn't get the results that she was looking for. And she had to do some of that internal work. But part of her journey was working with us and not seeing results and not being successful. And she realized and kind of attributed that to, I just wasn't ready to like hear the things that you were telling me. But that unsuccessful journey with us was part of what she needed to come back and be successful with us later on.
Yeah. How's she
And
doing now? I know who you're talking about.
fantastic. She's doing
Hell yeah.
great. Yeah, it's really cool. And I've often told her, I'm like, I feel like I'm talking with a different person. And we've had many conversations about, you know, the mental kind of like journey she had to get to where she is now. But she said, you know, a lot of it was working with you guys, hearing the things that you told me and what I needed to work on, and then kind of having that come in one ear and go out the other, and then trying to go off and do things on my own for 2 years because I thought I knew better, and kind of got myself into a worse situation.
You
And
have to ask yourself why. Yeah.
right, right. And she said, and I think I became a little bit more and more blunt with her towards the end of our conversations, like towards the end, because I was just like, do you, and I said something and I was like, well, you know, she's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm like, cool. I said, do you want to continue to try to do things on your own for the next 3 months, or do you want to work with us and get to your results faster? And she was kind of like, oof, yeah. Because she was like thinking about, well, my previous couple years by myself, I don't have that great of a track record. And she was like, you're right. And she did try some things on her own again and realized I can't do this on my own. I
Yeah.
do need to work with someone. And so even if you listen to that, you're like, see, I do need, I need to do, you know, I need to be in a good spot mentally in order to work with a coach. But that journey with us was part of her overall journey. And that I think that would have happened with anyone, or she would have continued to like, what if she hadn't worked with us and then waited the 2 years and then had the exact same experience? And then so her timeline just shifted further up
Yeah.
because she didn't take that initial action to begin with. Um, so yeah, so just wanted to share that
Mhm.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's ultimately, yeah, she's learned through messy action. And it wasn't pretty, but she's in a great spot now, and it was just meant to happen the way it was meant to happen, which is really, really cool. So I'm really happy for her and for you in that instance. Because ultimately, yeah, who knows how much longer she could have been floundering if she didn't have the failed experience, quote unquote, and then the successful one now. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
hopefully we poke some holes in that belief that you need to wait to start coaching for X, Y, and Z reasons.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And just knowing that your coach is there to help you with the difficulties. We're not just here to help you through the good times and to be your cheerleader. We absolutely will be when you're
Yeah.
successful and when you're doing well, and we'll figure out how we can capitalize on that. But we're there to help you through the messy, the messy parts and
Yeah.
to get you to where you need to be. So yeah, hopefully we did break some beliefs for you guys. And again, if you do want to reach out to either of us, if you have questions or anything, we're here to help in any way. So we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can find both of us on Instagram. You can find me at Christy Lynn Fit, and Marissa is at Marissa Roy Fitness. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope to see you back next week.